Yeah, holy, what's good, everybody? It's your boy Romanpuss here with the King of the Pirates guide, the original version of him, the Green Attacker Gol D. Now, he's a fantastic unit. He just got a serious round of buffs that made him absolutely disgusting, strong, broken, asinine, whatever you want to use to describe him. It's there. So without further ado, let's get into my guides. So hopefully you learned something. Again, if you have not gone over the skills of him or his traits, please take a look right now and get a good look and grasp for how he plays and what you're going to be working with, as these kind of include, and I'm not directly going over them in the video. First things first is the stat recommendations. What should you build on your medals in terms of stats to make him the most optimal? So I like to run 70% HP and if there's 70% attack. You have that trait that gives you back 30% HP when you take more than 20% HP in damage. So really having defense doesn't necessarily do anything, and there's a lot of people who ignore defense anyways, so it's not really that useful. So I just go 70% HP, 70% attack. You don't necessarily need the attack, so I'll get into that in a second, but we'll just move that further. So the HP goes a long way. Now, once you get higher up with higher levels of support, defense generally is only better if you're fighting someone you have a significant advantage over. So that's just the way the game works. Unfortunately, I kind of wish defense was a lot more useful in this game, but it's either too broken or it's useless. So there's no in between with this. So 70% attack, 70% HP, I think is what you should go, is the standard one-shotting build. Now, if you want to run an alternative build, you could run 70% HP and 70% defense and rely on that 100% attack buff in order to buff you up. But if you don't get your attack buff or you're fighting someone who removes your attack buffs, well, then you're probably going to be screwed. So I don't really recommend this one as much, but it is an option if you choose to go that route. And in terms of the extra traits, if you're working with 18%, that will leave one extra slot open. You can fit a flat 160 attack. If you're not sure what I mean by flat stats, you get those at the end of each season. You can find them in the season rewards. It's either 160 attack, 160 defense, or it's like 600 and something HP or something. So it's directly flat. It's not percentage based off the character stats. Anyways, moving forward, let's dive into a little bit of tips and tricks for Roger. The first things first, and the main point and the main part of your kit is to stack up that attack buff. You get this by hitting Kamusari on enemies. The more people you hit, the more stacks you'll accumulate. You only need 4 stacks, I believe, to hit max 100% attack buff bonus. It's disgusting. The fact that you don't even need to kill is a little bit crazy. So all you gotta do is hit people with this skill. So that kind of will lead me into the medal suggestions. You can kind of guess where I'm going with this. But overall, just like stack that attack buff. Try and stay outside the fights to begin. Get those buffs, play a little bit safe. If you have a defender you can hide behind, that's ideal, and that's the most optimal situation. You're not necessarily trying to run into the fight right into the dead center, because it can result in your death, so be careful of that. Next, you got to be careful when you are anti-healed. Play safe, play back. I believe in this first game that I have going on here, I actually play far back because that Shanks anti-heals me, and you just got to like back off. You can't really go in. You need to wait till it wears off. You don't really have a way to cleanse that off. So just be careful when you have that on you, because that's when you're actually the most vulnerable, is when you're anti-healed, and that's your biggest weakness. We'll get into that in the pros and cons and stuff. Next, use your skill 2 defensively. When you know an enemy will attack soon, it does deflect the damage back. So you get damage reduction when you're in your skill 2, when you're pressing and holding that. So make sure you utilize that to your advantage when you know the enemy's about to attack you. So if you're fighting another Roger, especially, if you ever fight another green attacker Roger, always wait to press your skill 2. Never use it first. Never use it first. Even if they have Kamusari, it's okay if you take a Kamusari. That is fine. Whoever uses skill 2 first loses the match. So if they Kamusari, you stand back up, and if they try to skill 2 you, you just press skill 2. You'll take the damage, but then you'll reflect it back at them and won't die, and then they'll generally get one shot like 99 times out of 100. So depending on supports, it depends on what you're working with there, or if you're a new player, that could be very different. So those are some overall tips and tricks on how to play Gol D. Your pros for Gol D. has grown extensively. Now, he's not as insane as the newest and greatest, most broken EX, but this man's ran amok for about 2 years after he was released. He was released on the 2nd anniversary and ran a disastrous amount of time for quite some time after that, probably up till like 3.5 anniversary or something, even with his counter. He has 100% attack buff, which is absolutely disgusting. That goes a long ways. Your skill 1 now newly goes through walls, and you're invincible during it. So, and on top of that, it heals you when you hit people as well. So he has a lot going for him. And on top of that, if you actually kill, you get some cooldown on your skill 1 as well, which adds even more to it. So if you haven't caught on by now, he's heavily skill 1 oriented. You also have damage reduction in that skill 2. This can help you tank. If you just need to hold a flag and they can't take the flag while you're on it, then all you gotta do is press skill 2 and you can stall them out for a good 5, 6, 7 seconds, however long it is. You can hold that and then you can dodge right after. You have so much going for you. You have damage increase that's not limited to being on a flag. It's actually oriented on the enemy's buffs. So if the enemies have a buff, you're generally going to have extra damage towards them, so they don't even have to be location restricted. You're also resistant to immobilizing status effects, which is very significant, and that was one of the best ways to kill him before. And now since he's immune to that, his ways to kill him easily at least are very limited and very down the drain. And on top of that, you have anti-stagger when fighting people, so if you have your skills down, you still have a large chance to win the basic attack fights. So he has a lot going for him in almost every scenario. He can almost be defensive, he can be offensive, he can be winning with just basic attacks. He doesn't need his skills. His skills on top of that are very easy to land. So even if you're fighting someone like a Shanks, if they have their red hair state buff, depending on, doesn't even matter if it's light or green Shanks, you can still hit him because your Commissar is relatively easy to aim unless you auto aim on someone else. So this Roger is huge. He's broken, he's busted now, and you are relatively limited on the options that you use to fight and kill him. Now his cons. What are his cons? His only cons are literally anti-heal and maybe his skill cooldowns, if you even want to count that. That's about it. That's about it. Mans ain't weak. Mans is strong. Bandai was like, screw it. We'll make him the most busted again. So, moving on. Let's talk about the characters you counter. Now, I don't particularly think you directly counter a specific unit. If you would like to mention one specific unit that you do destroy in almost every way, shape, and form, it's kind of sort of the blue defender Kaido. You can run amok all over him if you really want. But, I mean, he can take away your attack buffs, but if you're smart, he won't do that. So, anyways, almost any blue unit, except for like 2 of them, you absolutely destroy. Most units older than like the year 2024. Dark units really aren't too much of an issue either for the ones that are out. You really don't struggle against them. And then most of the red units really aren't that bad either. They just take a little bit longer because you don't have the color advantage against them. So really you don't have very many people that you directly counter, but you are a generally good character. And as I said, you're relatively busted, so you really don't have too much to worry about except for a few things. Now let's talk about the Roger counters. If you are fighting Roger and you want to kill him, this is your section. The first thing that I think I would go to if I'm trying to fight and play against a Roger is going to be S Snake. He cannot stack off of her his attack buffs, and every time he hits her, he gets a 30% reduced attack. So she's probably the #1 best counter for Roger, which is funny because she actually destroys both Rogers, which is a pretty funny coincidence because just the way that works. So that's your go-to. If you do not have S Snake, I'm sorry. You're probably not going to have as good of a time at countering him. But there are other options. You have things like Mont Blanc Nolan. He isn't a direct counter, but he can play against him. If the Nolan dodges like the Kamusari, Nolan can easily kill Roger. He can inflict the anti-heal, and he can take care of the battle, the rest of it. I've killed several Rogers with Nolan, and if he has the defense buff to match your attack buff, then he can kind of hold on pretty well, especially if he's running Zone Defender. So you have Nolan, then on top of that you have the new Light Shanks, can do pretty well. If he's not dumb, which most Shanks players, especially since most Shanks players don't have him level 100 even as well, if he's not dumb, he can really destroy Roger as well, especially just inflicting anti-heal is almost doing enough. So 45 seconds of anti-heal can really be a bummer, and without that ability to heal from taking more than 20% of your HP and damage, normally you get 30% back. If you don't have that, you're so squishy and you're so much easier to kill. So that's just things to take into consideration. And then yeah, most characters the anti-heal. So there was Onigashima Law was the original one, but he's really not too hard to deal with because you can just kill him before he kills you. But he can kill you. There's things to worry about. So just watch out for anti-heal. There's several characters. Pretty much any unit that includes Law, almost, can anti-heal. And then you have things like Nolan and Hybrid Kaido can anti-heal. So just watch out for things like that. and you'll be good. Hybrid Kaido, you could potentially throw in a counter here as well because of that anti-heal. So Homeboy's pretty good, but Kaido usually doesn't fight. He just runs and takes flags, and that's about it. Now let's talk about the medal suggestions for this newly buffed Roger. Old unit, new buffs, fantastic unit overall. The first things first, as I've said earlier, your skill 1 revolvent. So if you get the Kaido set, I hate that I put this on almost every guide video, but the Kaido set is that good, people. You throw that on, it's so universal. You can throw it on so many characters, and it just comes with so much pack power. You have a defense-oriented set, and then you have the one that you see here on this screen is the attacker-oriented set. So this one gives you damage increase on the enemy flag, and it gives you skill 1 cooldown when you kill an enemy, and every time you take a hit from that middle medal, you get skill 1 cooldown as well. So really so much going for you in this set. Comes with so many tags. It's just revolvement. It's so good, so good, so good. So really, if you can get those old event medals, you'd have to pay money, or you have to own them already. But if you can get a hold of those old event medals, it is worth it for that Roger if you care that much or are willing to spend money. If you're not willing to spend money, there are these other sets. You have this Luffy mixed match. Depending on what Luffys you have, it all comes down to what you have to work with. You have these Boa Hancock sets. Comes with some skill cooldown as well. There are some event Boa medals as well. You could run those and throw those in there. And whichever Boas you have, I know they can be hard to come by or come to get. It all depends. And then I just wanted to throw this on there for fun, but true Roger mains are going to be repping the double colored Roger with the event. Maybe we'll get a V3 Roger so you can run triple colored Roger event. Triple colored Roger medals. That could be an option out there as well if you're into that. I don't necessarily recommend it. I just think it looks pretty. So that's about it. Now these are a general guide. You don't have to use these. There are other options. If you don't have these sets, some other tag families I recommend looking for. If you are new and don't necessarily have a bunch of characters to look for, you can go try Straw Hats tag is something to look and mix match. Try Charlotte Family tag. You can mix and match. Charlotte Family comes with a lot of offensive options. I do recommend that one. It's actually probably the #1. Animal Kingdom Pirates is an option. There's so many options there that you can run, as well as a variety. Baroque Works is an option as well that comes with different things. You would generally want to go for skill 1 cooldown and damage increase. I would probably revolve around those two, but skill 1 cooldown is probably the most important. So overall, you guys, that is my Gol D Roger V1 guide. I hope you guys found this useful. If you have other medal suggestions, throw them down in the comments. For those of you can just scroll through the comments, see if anyone else has any other tips for you down below there. I will try and include them in a pinned message as much as possible. So that's all I have for you guys. I hope someone at least found this video useful. If it's one person, that's all I care about. So I hope you guys found this useful. I'm Romanpuss. I'm going to be taking off. Make sure you check me out on Twitch, Twitter, Discord. Links are down in the description, and I'll catch you on the next one. Yeah, peace, beautiful people.